Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. Tonight I'm going to do episode 3 as I continue my series of some of my favorite box sets. It was requested by a subscriber of mine, and I think it's a good idea, and I'm having fun, and I hope you are too, as I'm going to be showing off some of my 184 box sets that I currently own, some of the most fun ones. And that includes this one, Grand Funk Railroad, The Trunk of Funk, remastered box of CDs. Look at this. This truly is a trunk of funk. I got this, I don't know, maybe 2002, I think it was when it came out. And I was really excited to get this. It's just beautiful. Now, what it was, it came, this is what it came with, the Grand Funk Trunk of Funk. I think they've reissued it, but in 2 small boxes. This is the original. And this was a limited edition collector's box set and included the full-length remastered with bonus tracks of their first 4 albums, On Time, Grand Funk, the Red Album, Live Album, and Closer to Home. So it only came with the 4 CDs. And I'm going to take this off because I can't see you, because this is 3-dimensional, believe it or not. So it also came with some doodads, including the 3D glasses that were originally on the vinyl cover of the Shining On album, which, of course, if you took that off, would ruin the cover. Came with a guitar pick that says Grand Funk Railroad. There we go. And it came with the glasses and a sticker. All aboard Flint, Michigan, the Grand Funk Railroad. And I got a sticker as well. So, really beautiful box. And let me show it to you. You know what? I'm going to give you a little background. So, I grew up, my sister was 4 years older, and she had amazing taste in music. So, I'm one of those rare cases that when I was a little kid, 6, 7, 8 years old, I was listening to the Rolling Stones, Led Zeppelin, yes, the Allman Brothers, top-notch music. I was reading. By 10 years old, I subscribed to Cream, Circus, and I still have all the copies. And my sister was older, so she was more like Rolling Stone magazine, Crawdaddy, things like that. So I was really knowledgeable, and I never outgrew the stuff, and wound up way surpassing my sister. But the point is that back then, there was a couple of bands that if you were really into music and had great taste in music, you weren't allowed to like, and one of them was Grand Funk Railroad. Another one's Uriah Heep, which I'll talk about in another video. But Grand Funk was not a cool band if you were, a little bit, not snooty maybe, about great music. 1979, on vinyl, I picked up this album. I was 16. Grand Funk Hits. Nice short 45-minute set, and it had those 10 great songs, and I was like, what do you mean you can't like this? This album is absolutely incredible. It's one incredible song after the other. And I fell in love with the CD, vinyl record at the time. Came with a little poster too. Fell in love with it. And then after that, I wound up picking up on vinyl. Here's the original version of We're an American Band, produced by Todd Rundgren. And, of course, the famous picture of the fellas there. Now they got Craig Frost on keyboards, opening up their sound. But here you go, the original version on vinyl. Woo, matches the cover. Isn't that sweet? So all you colored vinyl people, this is the original. So that album, We're an American Band, besides the title track being one of the greatest songs in the history of rock and roll, in my opinion, and I'll never get sick of hearing that song. It still sounds as good today as ever. But that whole album, this whole album from beginning to end is just a certified classic. I mean, it's a perfect, damn near perfect album. Produced by Todd Rundgren. He cleaned up their sound really nicely. I don't want to do a whole video on Grand Funk, but apparently over the decades I've become quite a fan because I just looked in my database and I have exactly, without exaggeration, 30 Grand Funk albums. I have all of their albums and most of their compilations as well, as you can see. So I just wanted to show it as a backdrop so people don't think I keep making up these numbers. I really do have an immense collection of music. But here's Trunk of Funk, which is what I wanted to talk about. It came with the first 4 albums, On Time, And Capitol at the time had done a beautiful job. They remastered all of the albums and included unreleased tracks. So there's the first album, there's the Red Album, Grand Funk. These albums are raw, man, but they sound really good digitally remastered, as good as you can get them. They're raw. This band was a raw band live. I mean, when they were recording, those needles were all the way in the red. You could hear the vibrations of the speakers, and I can understand why the critics didn't like them. They would just, they would just blow you away with their power. Previously unreleased live tracks on Closer to Home. I mean, no offense. How could you not love I'm Your Captain, Closer to Home? Here's the original live album. A lot of people think this is one of the greatest live albums of all time. It is a really powerful... There's the cover. It's what they look like and what they sounded like live. And then Survival. Now, these didn't come in the box, but of course I filled out my collection. These are just, they did a great job remastering the stuff. All of the CDs have thick booklets. Here's the classic E Pluribus Funk album, which came like a big, the vinyl was that round coin like you see it with Shea Stadium, because they headlined, of course, Shea Stadium, really famous concert. Humble Pie opened up. And then they did Phoenix. Now they start cleaning up their sound a little bit. I actually liked their sound when their albums were more produced. Craig Frost joined on keyboards. Here's the classic We're an American Band. A couple of bonus tracks as well. And then The Great Shining On. I love this album. There's the 3D glasses with the 3D cover. Another fine record. All the Girls in the World Beware. That was the cover for that one. And, of course, that features Bad Time. Another song that I just think is one of the greatest songs of all time. I could hear that song anytime, any place, and just get up and start dancing. This is my favorite live record by the band, Caught in the Act. I think this album is amazing. It's cleaner than the first live record, a little bit more commercial. It's awesome. Born to Die. That was that cover. And that album didn't get very good reviews, but I think it's a very fine album. And these are the Capitol albums. Now, there's a couple of other albums in there. This one got lost. This was put out on MCA at the time, and it was produced by Frank Zappa. And it's an album that did not do well, and it's a shame, because this album is a killer album from beginning to end. This is just an awesome record produced by Zappa. I know this is becoming like a Grand Funk thing, but what the hell. This is a great live record too. Bosnia, when they reformed, they played with an orchestra. And then there's a whole bunch of other compilations that you see behind me. And then when they reformed, you got Grand Funk Lives and What's Funk. Maybe one day I'll do a video of Grand Funk. I'll rank the albums. But it was all about this Trunk of Funk. This is one of my all-time favorite box sets. It totally got me back into Grand Funk without feeling any guilt. Where, you can't like them because they're not the greatest musicians, or they just play raucous rock and roll. They were the people's band in that time, and they were huge, Played Madison Square Garden multiple nights, and of course sold out Shea Stadium. Here's a nice compilation. Look at with the clippings and what the band looked like. And they knew how to take the piss about themselves, Like, here's the inner sleeves of this album, and it's filled with clippings. Love that. This is just great. But some of these clippings are, like, hysterical. Some more clippings on this side. And on the second vinyl album of this, where is it? I know, like, some of the clippings, I know it said something like Grand Funk. Grand Funk Railroad finks out in concert, and Grand Funk is lousy as they sell out Shea Stadium. GFR goofs. So Grand Funk, they could take it. They knew they weren't the greatest musicians, but they're fine musicians. They just, Farner's not the greatest guitarist, but he's a fine guitarist, and I think John Brewer is a really powerful drummer. Here's the poster that came with that album. I mean, this is a band for the people. And they really were. Great band, I think. Anyway, I don't know if you could get this box set. They reissued it now as 2 smaller boxes, and I don't know if it comes fully loaded. But Grand Funk is not the kind of band that all their albums are classics, but they're all good. They all have a couple of really good songs. And if you don't know Grand Funk, get one of these compilations. This was the first one that turned me on to the band. It's killer. Now the latter ones have a lot more tracks to them, but there's a lot of really good stuff. I mean, if you don't like We're an American Band and Shining On and Some Kind of Wonderful, the cover, The Locomotion is another great cover. Bad Time, oh my God, it's a perfect pop rock song. Take Me, Mean Mistreater, Foot Stomping Music, and of course, I'm Your Captain, Closer to Home. Man, it's some of the greatest stuff in the history of rock and roll, in my humble opinion. And I'll tell you something else. I got to meet Mark Farner a couple times. So, first time I saw Mark Farner, he was playing with Ringo Starr's band. And I've met him on 2 other occasions when I saw him play solo. And he's such a nice guy. He's so down to earth. And I would bring him stuff, from my archives. I'm like, hey, Mark, would you sign this? And he wrote to Alan, Mark Farner. And then here's an ad I kept for decades from Born to Die. And he signed it. And he's like, where'd you get this stuff? And my favorite is I have a beautifully framed of the Caught in the Act live album that Mark signed. But it's hanging on my wall up there. I didn't take it down. But he's just a really nice, down-to-earth guy. And he's great live. He still sounds great. And I've seen the current incarnation of Grand Funk Railroad, and they sound pretty great live, too. Different singer. It's not Mark Farner, but they sound great. But the times I saw them, I could not get Brewer or Melchaka to sign anything. They just didn't want any part of it. So maybe I caught them on bad nights. But they sounded great, too. I wish they would get back together and play. That would be a nice little dream before we all pass away, get the original Grand Funk back. Another box set, 30 Years of Funk, another great box, 3 CDs. But this is the story right there, the Trunk of Funk from Grand Funk Railroad. A great American band. And what else? I think that's about it. I put in a little review there. Grand Funk live at Madison Square Garden with Wet Willie opening and CZ Quattro. Madison Square Garden. There are few, if any, rock and roll bands left that can excite an audience to the brink of hysteria with the mere mention of their name, and Grand Funk is one of them. It's from Billboard magazine back in the day. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit subscribe if you're new to my channel. Check out my other videos. And episode 3 of Favorite Box Sets, Trunk of Funk, Grand Funk. The great Grand Funk. Should they be in the Hall of Fame? Why the hell not? Based on some of the other bands they're putting in, with a band with the discography that I just showed, I'd put them in there. Alrighty. Have a great night. I will see you on the next go-around. Have a good one.